Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
And we welcome you to it, this Friday edition of the show, all across the United States of America and Canada, on over 270 affiliates. We welcome you. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We will be joined by our friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online. In-depth conversation with him on everything that's gone on this week in sports and more. News from the NFL. What was once old is new again in the Bay Area for the Niners. We'll get to that coming up. Baker Mayfield making some very interesting comments that do not bode well for his future with the Buccaneers past this season. We will get to that coming up a little later on in the show. The Mets have started the dump off of players that they will be dispersing around Major League Baseball. We'll see how many more get traded away. All of that and a whole bunch more. But we get things started, as we always do, on this Friday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story is presented by the Daily Wrap, our Substack newsletter. Monday through Friday, you can get the Daily Wrap on Substack. All you gotta do is scan the QR code. It's right there. I know you see it. You got your phone out. Just take your phone camera, point it at it, and you'll see a link. Click on it, and you're subscribed to the Daily Wrap. It's as simple as that. It's our Monday through Friday newsletter from SportsWrap. We encourage you to check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Every day we'll have content there, and more content will be showing up on that Substack and in that Substack newsletter. So please go and check it out. All right. The big story today, let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Little local flavor for the show today. I host the show from Las Vegas. We're a national show, but let's give some love to the Las Vegas Raiders, who are trying to get their act together. Remember, they brought in Tom Brady. They bring in Clint Kubiak. They draft Fernando Mendoza. They go and make some big signings in the offseason and starting to show signs of an organization that's growing up in front of our very eyes. So they go and draft Fernando Mendoza. And I've heard people in this market, I've heard people across the country, start him from day one. Fernando Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner, undefeated, national championship in Indiana. And I go, yeah, that all sounds great. But how many organizations have we seen who fall into the trap of, let's rush them out there and start them from day one? And while some are successful, we've also seen the pitfalls of this. We've also seen guys that just never get it together because the struggles are so immense in the early going that their confidence gets crushed, that they get hit 7,000 times. Remember David Carr? Remember the Houston Texans? Their first quarterback was a guy named David Carr. Of course, his brother famously played for the Raiders before going to the Saints, before calling it a career. Remember David Carr? David Carr didn't succeed. Couldn't succeed in Houston with the Texans. You know why? He was on his ass every time. He was on his back every time. He never had an opportunity to succeed because the team built around him was not equipped for what David Carr could have been. Offensive line was terrible. He got sacked more than anybody throughout his tenure as a starter in the NFL. Which brings us to Fernando Mendoza. No matter how physically gifted you think this guy is, no matter how much arm talent you think he has, no matter how much moxie and leadership skills, and he says all the right things, no matter how much you think of all of that, he is still just a kid. And this is not, this is a big jump from Indiana football. And you got to remember something. You watch him with Indiana and you think, wow, look at the success. How many great teams is he truly playing? Every week in the NFL, he's going to be playing against even the worst NFL teams are 10 times better than most college football teams. You have to remember that. Just because he had that level of success against those players doesn't mean you come into the NFL and suddenly there's this world of success that awaits you because of what you did at the collegiate level. There are levels to this, as we like to say. And jumping up to the NFL, even against the worst of the worst, is still more challenging than anything he's faced at the collegiate level. Then you take the complexities of Clint Kubiak's offense, which is not what he was running, obviously, at Indiana. And the biggest reason of all why I don't rush Fernando Mendoza was the brilliance of John Spytek and the decision they made to sign Kirk Cousins. You have the perfect placeholder. You have the perfect placeholder while you get Fernando Mendoza comfortable and where you want him to be not just the leader of this team, but the guy who can physically carry out the mission every week. Kirk Cousins could do that tomorrow. Kirk Cousins came in last handful of games last year for an average Atlanta Falcons team and led them to a bunch of wins and almost damn well got them into the playoffs after Michael Penix got hurt. Kirk Cousins can still play. I'm not saying you're winning Super Bowls with him. I'm not saying that he's going to be the quarterback for the entire season. But quite honestly, if he gets off to a good enough start, let him go. Let him play. Raiders' schedule to start the season. Let's put it up on the screen. They start off with the Dolphins in Las Vegas. Winnable game. Then they're on the road in Los Angeles against the Chargers. Quick little road trip. Then at the Saints. They are not going to be pushovers this year. You take that, follow it with a home game against the Chiefs. And you know what Kansas City's expecting. Who knows who their starting quarterback will be? Maybe it'll be Justin Fields. Maybe it'll be Patrick Mahomes. Then they're on the road against the Patriots. Then they're home for the Bills. If somebody's going to take their lumps with that schedule early in the year, let it be Kirk Cousins. You can learn so much watching on the sidelines, especially as smart, as good of a processor as Fernando Mendoza has. I think he's truly going to benefit from not starting the season as the starting quarterback. And I think it's the right move by the Raiders, and it shows maturity to me for this organization, for this franchise, to make the decision to let Kirk Cousins start the season. We'll see how long that lasts. And that's the big story. Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, joins us next. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. I was doing some pamphlets on the show for some sales materials, things like that we're working on. And we're talking about, in this pamphlet and in this brochure, people that are staples of the show. And this guy's name was in there. The one and only Robert Littal.
I made the pamphlet.
You made the pamphlet. I know. Founder of Black Sports Online hangs out with us on the show, talk about some of the top stories of the week. He's the author of a forthcoming book later this year, which we will be talking about more as we get deeper into the year, which is very exciting for him. So, Robert Littal, I have a whole bunch of things on my agenda with you today. Beginning, I haven't talked to you much about the whole Ryan Clark situation. Now we've had about a week and a half or so to marinate in Clark's dismissal, being laid off from ESPN, a whole bunch of people laid off, but his and Carl Ravitch were the two most notable. As we've sort of learned more about the dynamics of what was going on there and how all of this took place, where are you in terms of how this was handled by ESPN, the whole thing with Outkick getting the story, and then, ESPN basically giving it to Andrew Marchand so that he could report it sooner, the way this whole thing played out? I want your thoughts.
Well, I think, first, I thought it played out terribly, with Ryan Clark actually being on his show while this was going on. There certainly are two different factions I believe, at ESPN. And I think there is a faction that leans towards more of that, let's say, Trump, MAGA, outkick style. And then there's also a faction that is a little bit more progressive and liberal. And we're talking at the highest of the highest levels. And I think sometimes, depending on who you are and what you are saying and what type of outlet you have, some of that middle ground ends up getting these people cut. Because we've actually seen people from the other side that maybe has taken it too far with some of their stances and their support of some of the MAGA agenda. We've seen them, get cut. I think with Ryan Clark, he has his own platform, and a part of his platform is taking on controversial issues, black issues. He's very someone that has always been kind of at the forefront of that. And I think maybe that rubs some people the wrong way, and he went, too far on that side, and they got rid of him. So I think with that is you almost have to be Switzerland to be at ESPN right now and feel comfortable with your job. I think also they have their fear of letting any women type of go of anything like that for any type of backlash. Because if you notice, there's a lot of women that have kind of the same type of demeanor and the same type of takes that Ryan Clark has, but they still all have a job, today.
I'm curious to know where you stand. Dave Roberts, who is an ESPN executive, did an interview on his way out the door where he basically said, look, this day and age we live in of sports and politics and trying to separate the two, he goes, you can't do it anymore. And that, to me, was a very big admission from somebody who's an executive at ESPN, who's been one of the more prominent voices there on the executive side, to come out and actually say, we can't separate sports and politics anymore.
Yeah, the reason why is because the political agenda from the people on top has bled deeply into sports. Even though they always are the ones that say, shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
But they are also the ones that will go to Congress about Caitlin Clark. Or will, with Sophie Cunningham, they will take individuals, no matter if that individual is on their side or not, and use them as political props. So when that happens, as media people, we really have no choice but to interject into it, because how can we talk about, like, say, Caitlin Clark, right, without talking about the political aspects of it? Because the political aspects of it is probably the main reason that we don't get to talk about basketball, with her on both sides, of the equation. So I think what he's saying is that, the country kind of follows what's going on on top. So if your president is a mean person that likes to take shots and revenge and call people names, and that's going to trickle down to a portion of the country. They had this problem with President Obama. Politics was politics, and sports was sports. And when he delved into sports, like when he delved in just recently with the WNBA, it was always positive.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
That was probably the first day in months, years maybe, that I felt like the WNBA had a good PR day.
Yeah.
And it was just because the person that was there had good vibes and was basically saying, hey, this is a bunch of nonsense. Just enjoy yourself. And the country, for one day, was like, okay, we probably should have. Then the next day, it went back to the way it was.
Carl Ravitch shocked everybody last night when he appeared on an ESPN Major League Baseball broadcast, because he was one of the layoffs, but apparently he still has, this sort of freelance deal with them where he's going to still work on the Little League World Series. He's still going to work on some ESPN baseball telecasts, of which they don't have as many this year. And I got to say, that is the height of professionalism. I had a similar situation, my ending at NBC Sports Radio. They let me know about 3 months before that I was being let go because of budgetary things and stuff like that. They were letting me go. But they were like, if you want to work through the Super Bowl, go ahead. Work through the Super Bowl. And I was able to have a few months to sort of, land the plane, so to speak. And it feels like that's kind of what they're giving to Carl Ravitch here.
Yeah, I mean, I think with people like Carl Ravitch, what people don't understand is that the reason that they are laying him off, right? And it's so bad. It makes me sad. Is that he's been there for 30 years. It's a lot of raises over the years. So he probably makes a ton of money, but he's not a hot taker. He doesn't bring any type of what they consider now engaged. Like, when was the last time anybody even talked? I mean, he does a great job on the play-by-play. I don't know if he still does Sports Center. I'm sure he does a great, but he doesn't bring any eyes to social media. You know what I mean? And they're like, we can find somebody younger that costs a lot less and do the same thing.
And it's also a situation where they've cut back on baseball. And that's largely what he's done is baseball. So he became a casualty, I think, of their decision to sort of move away from baseball. You don't need that bloated salary of a Carl Ravitch, and it is a shame. I don't know what he's going to do at this stage of his life. We wish him the best of luck. We're coming back. We'll do more with our friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, hanging out with us on this Friday edition of the show. Lots more hot topics to get to next. Continuing on this Friday edition of Sports Wrap with our friend Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online, hanging out with us on the program. He's a great follow on social media as well. You can see his handle there at BSO. All right, you mentioned the WNBA in the last segment. Let's dig into it. So Paige Beckers and Angel Reese have a $400 wager on the WNBA All-Star game. WNBA, in its infinite wisdom, was like, hey, let's get a video of them doing this. And then the WNBA said, wait a minute, are we really putting up a video of these two making a bet on a game that they're playing in? And then, there was all this controversy about it. They decided, oh, well, they're not going to get into any trouble. And obviously, they're coming under a lot of criticism for it. It is the league that it continues to succeed despite its best attempts to screw everything up, Robert Littal.
Yeah, it's I get why they didn't want to punish him because they're two high-profile stars and they're probably concerned what Angel or Paige may say on social media. But it's just it's a small thing, really. It's not really a big deal. But in the age where NBA players are actually probably going to go to jail for gambling, and where we see fans attacking players because of parlays and stuff like that, it's once again it shows you that they're not ready for the big time. They have to start thinking and acting like a big time league because that's how they're being looked at now from a lot of people from the outside. If you bet on the WNBA 10 years ago, you were sick. Something wrong with you. You really had a problem. But now, it's probably a daily occurrence with Caitlin Clark and the rest of them. So they just have to do a better job at realizing, you're not a little league, league anymore. You got to step up and be better.
Robert, did it grow too quick, too fast? Is that because it really was? I don't know if we've ever seen a league in my lifetime that's exploded in popularity and in eyeballs being on it as fast as this has with the arrival of Caitlin Clark and everything that sort of trickled down from that. Is it just that it grew faster than it could possibly be prepared for? I'm not trying to give it I'm not trying to scapegoat anything or give anybody an excuse for why it's being run the way it is, but that's the only thing I can think of.
No, see, I tell you why I don't believe that. I tell you why. If the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese thing had happened when they were both seniors and they came right into the WNBA after that, then you can make a case that, it was just a very fast, wave. They both happened when they were juniors. At that point, everybody, I know I saw it. You could see it coming based off what was going on with college women's sports. They were doing record numbers. They had an entire year to prepare for Caitlin Clark coming into the league. I'm assuming they have smarter people that work for them than us, right? Anybody could have ran the numbers, right? Maybe.
Not so sure.
Anybody could have looked at the social. Anybody could have saw, what was. It just seems like everybody knew except them, and they just felt that once they got there, everything would just fall into place. So I don't cut them any slack for that because they had a whole year to prepare for what they knew was going to be a historic draft. And now, could they have prepared for the political stuff and some of the racial stuff and all of that other stuff? Probably not. I don't think any of us knew it would get to where it's gotten, right now. But if they could have, in my opinion, nipped a lot of that in the bud day one, simply by putting Angel and Caitlin together in more situations where they had to interact with each other. So it would have made it harder for people to pit them against each other because they would have seen them, together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they just, for whatever reason, they just kept them separate and wanted it to be like a boxing match, in this corner and this corner. And they, in my opinion, they helped fester what is now, out of control right now.
Sophie Cunningham, speaking of, I don't know, some people might say out of control. I don't know. Came out with this thing right before the All-Star game a week ago where she, went to bat for women in sports and girls in sports and saying transgender athletes shouldn't be allowed to compete with biological women and all of this. And everything that's come from that now, all the fruit that's been sort of bared from that. You had this thing in Seattle this week with the fever there. The owner of Seattle, or one of the owners of Seattle, gets suspended for 5 games, gets fined for going after some kids who were wearing a T-shirt. Is there any way to calm this at this point? I know that Sophie came out and made a statement essentially saying, hey, I have love for everybody. Everybody's welcome to my table. Like she's trying to soften the stance a little bit. I don't know how this goes away because conservatives have glommed onto it and really, sort of like a symbiote have sort of latched onto it. How does this end?
Yeah, see, here's the thing. I think because it's so funny to me because, not funny, but Sophie Cunningham, played on the high school football team. So it's not like she doesn't have any, crossover type of experience. I think it's a very sensitive topic because I think people conflate 2 different, things. Clearly, you do not want, men that are pretending to be, women, let's put it like that, having access to young, women in bathrooms and sport, whatever it may be, right? But that's different, and as opposed to transgender women who have transitioned and has went through that process. And there's a lot of transgender hate, a lot of transgender violence and things of that nature. But for whatever reason, those 2, which seems to me like pretty clear differences, get kind of meshed, into one, and then everybody starts, arguing. And I think what happens is when you're not articulate enough in what you're trying to say, you get what's happening. But sometimes it doesn't matter because, like you said, it's like a symbiote. I think I understand what Sophie Cunningham is saying. I think, I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's saying what I'm saying in the first half of that. But the symbiote takes control of it, and then it's like, all transgenders are bad, they're evil people, they need to be and then it's the same thing like with the Caitlin Clark thing. Caitlin Clark can say this, and then they take it and say that.
Right.
And and there's no way to stop it. It's like a snowball, which is why I think for someone like Sophie Cunningham, it's best not to say anything.
To me, it's the lack of empathy. Robert Littall's hanging out with us. We got one more segment with him. I got a few more topics I want to run through as we go through some of the top stories of the week with our friend from Black Sports Online. Don't go anywhere. Our friend Robert Littal on, the founder of Black Sports Online, providing his insights on some of the top stories of the week. And even a little more than a week. Because we haven't had him on in a couple, so I figure we'll get into some topics that I've wanted to talk about with him. I said this yesterday on the show, and I'm curious to get your reaction. I don't think there's any way we see Tony Romo on another CBS broadcast. I'd be shocked if they held on to him. Because as it was, there's already been this discussion about him sort of going downhill over the last year or so on the broadcasts itself. Then you throw in all the video and the optics of this DUI, suspicion of DUI story, DWI, whatever they call it in Wisconsin, I'd be shocked if we saw it. I think they're behind the scenes right now just trying to figure out what the exit strategy is from this, who they're going to pair with Nance this year. What do you think?
I think I don't think I've heard that, opinion. Most people have said that he's safe and that even though it's very embarrassing and obviously the stretching and the dancing and having the open bottle and stuff like that is bad, that CBS is going to stand by him. I do think, and I've told you this before, I never begrudge anybody for taking as much money as they possibly can, right? But I feel like color guys and play-by-play guys are grossly overpaid. You know what I mean? A lot of people watch Red Zone. A lot of people, watch alternative broadcasts. You don't need to pay somebody, $20 million. I don't think nobody is going to say, oh, the Chiefs and the Ravens are playing on Sunday at 4:00. Well, I'm only going to watch because Tony Romo is doing the call. And if you can get that money off of your budget, like you said, I can see it. But, I don't know. I think if it was a different network, I mean, CBS is just, I don't think they are more into that stuff than maybe some other networks. I think he's going to be fine.
God.
He has the right complexion for protection.
Oh, there it is. Right complexion for protection. I've never heard that one. I like that.
That's an original right there.
I said this yesterday on the show in the big story, and I'm anxious to see what you have to say about it. I never thought I'd utter these words. I actually want to see a work stoppage in Major League Baseball if it means we get to a salary cap and something that evens the playing field from where we are now in baseball. And I think it's going to happen. I think there's a real good chance we don't have baseball at all next year. At the very least, I think we're going to miss about half the season because I don't think either of these sides are budging on the idea of the owners who want the salary cap and the players who say over our dead bodies.
Yeah, it's... what's interesting? The one thing I think that has gotten out of control is those deferred payments. In the sense that you can pay someone like Ohtani and others, $1 billion or whatever it may be, and don't have to pay it into 2070 or whatever, and then therefore, and it doesn't count the way the calculations is, and make sure your overall spending lower, year to year, and allows you to get all these other players. It's always been an issue with baseball, small market versus big market. As it goes higher, it becomes a bigger thing. Doesn't necessarily guarantee success. The Yankees haven't won in a long time. The Mets haven't won in a long time. Dodgers have figured it out, apparently. But you would like for fans to feel like they have hope each season. A lot of people complain about the NBA with the first April and the second April. Was that 7 champions in a row that's been brand new simply because they can't hoard the players? Oklahoma City had to get rid of, there was a time that someone like Lou Dort would never leave Oklahoma City.
Right.
But they just can't afford them, because of the way it's set up. But yeah, if I'm a player though, of course not. I don't want to deal with that because I want an unlimited amount of money that I can make. I don't want it to be like football. I don't want it to be like, basketball and all of that stuff. I want to be able to make as much money as I can. And I have to be honest with you, I'm always with the players on that time. So, I don't want a stoppage, but I'm always on the players because whatever the players make, the owners are making more. So, so when people say, oh, man, Jaylen Brown, he's making $300 million and Tato's making $400 million. Well, if that's true, that means the owner, he sold it for $6 billion or $7 billion. They're going to be all right.
Kyle Shanahan's car wreck and the way it was handled by the Niners. As somebody with a journalism background, what has bothered you the most about the way this whole thing has been handled, both by the media and by the Niners?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not so upset the fact that the local media maybe, did them a favor because they have to be in that building every day and they can lock them out. It's a weird situation. You know how beat reporting is. It can be a little, quid pro pro. So what I don't like, though, is that, first off, they blame this girl initially for causing the accident. It wasn't her fault. They're not releasing any of the body cam footage, all the stuff that can tell us what really happened. And the reason that it bothers me because if this was a player on the 49ers, it would have been out that day. Like say when Lonzo LaMelo Ball got in an accident, it's out one day. You know, the guy from I think the Falcons when he was running from the cops, whatever, it was out the same day. Even the guy from ESPN, the fantasy football, it got out. So it's like, you know, even with Diana Rossini, it took a little while, but it can't, you know, it comes to light. So the fact that you're not treating the players the same as the coaches, and you're trying to tell us the coaches are telling the players to live up to this standard, it shows hypocrisy and a double standard within the NFL. And the fact that the NFL hasn't stopped in, because if it's just what you say it is, you're going 20 miles an hour, you had your fun, what do you have to hide? So the more things that they hide, the more it seems like, was there another woman in the car? Was there something? There seemed like it was something that there's definitely something that they don't want us to know because they know it'll be bad.
It's never about the crime. It's always about
the cover up.
Always
the cover up. If he comes out day one and says, there's an accident, I'm in the hospital,
yep.
by this time, nobody cares.
Yep. I agree, especially with football, because everybody just wants to talk about the football. Right. Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online. Please follow him at BSO. He does a great job covering all sports. Thank you, my friend. We'll talk soon.
All right. You have a great day.
All right. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, some odds and ends. And an update on one of the stories we were talking about with Robert Littal. And a whole bunch more. There's more to talk about from the NFL. We opened the show with the big story today and talking about the quarterback situation. Not even a situation, really. But the quarterback room for the Las Vegas Raiders. And how I'm proud of the Raiders for going with Kirk Cousins at the start of this training camp. And I think at the start of the season, he'll be the starting quarterback. And eventually they'll transition to Fernando Mendoza. But what is the rush? The plan isn't to win a Super Bowl this year. You can be honest with your fans and admit that. Now, who knows? Maybe great things happen and this team goes on some magical run. Not likely, but it's okay to be honest with your fan base and say, we have a plan. Here's the strategy. There's more to get to from around the NFL. Deebo Samuel, what was once old is new again in the Bay Area. Not in San Francisco because they play in Santa Clara. With Ricky Pearsall dealing with a right knee injury, and the Niners are basically telling you how concerned they are about that Pearsall injury because they're going back to a, sort of a fallback option with Deebo Samuel, who spent last year with the Commanders. Had 72 catches, 720 yards, 5 touchdowns, 17 carries for 75 yards. I mean, he's a versatile guy. He can clearly still play in this league. But it does give you a peek into sort of the 49ers mindset when it comes not just to Pearsall, but they also have Christian Kirk, who they went out and got, and he's having some injury issues as well. Samuel, for his career, 219 carries for over 1,200 yards, 21 touchdowns. He's a versatile guy, 406 catches for 5,500 yards and 27 touchdowns. Mike Evans, remember, added to this 49ers roster. That veteran move shocked everybody in this offseason was Mike Evans making the decision to leave Tampa Bay, where he played his entire career, where he was a legend in that organization. Will go into the Hall of Fame one day as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. But he wanted to try something different out. And who could blame him? So that's the situation in San Francisco right now with the 49ers as they bring in Deebo Samuel. Baker Mayfield is feeling disrespected. And this is a story worth watching. There's a lot of people out there that think the Buccaneers are poised for a huge bounce-back season in 2026. And that's got to start with Baker Mayfield, who's been trying with the organization to get a long-term deal done. It hasn't happened. And now you have Mayfield speaking publicly. A lot of guys play these things differently. A lot of guys say, I'll negotiate up until the start of the season. If we don't get a deal done, then I'm not talking and I'll ride it out through the season and bet on myself. And that's kind of what he's doing. But a lot of times guys aren't going to talk about that situation, that ongoing negotiation. Baker Mayfield's never been that guy. Said on Thursday he felt, quote, disrespected a little bit that they could not get a new deal done in Tampa Bay with the Buccaneers. And I got to say, not to ride the fence on this, I understand both sides of it. Baker Mayfield has put up prolific numbers for the Buccaneers in the aftermath of Tom Brady. Remember, we all thought, all right, Brady leaves, they go back to being the Buccaneers. Well, Baker Mayfield came in, and he's done a fantastic job. And he's a good, very capable, very good NFL quarterback. But here's the problem. And we've seen organizations in different sports have to go through this to a much different degree because his stardom is much higher. Luka Doncic. Everybody went nuts when the Mavericks traded him. And we could sit here and argue and debate the merits of it. But if you as an organization determine that you cannot win a championship with a certain player, then why are you going to commit long-term dollars? If you as an organization can admit to yourself that even in the best case scenario, we can win some playoff games, but we're not going to win a Super Bowl, at what point do you turn the page? At what point do the numbers not align for the Buccaneers when it comes to a long-term deal for Baker Mayfield? If they could get him at their price, they'd sign him tomorrow. But he wants the kind of money that's reserved for guys that have won something more than he has. And that's his right. I will never begrudge a guy for trying to get as much as he can. But the fact of the matter is, if you're the Buccaneers, depending on how this season goes, you might be ready to turn the page. No pun intended. On Baker Mayfield. And start to rebuild this thing. You had Mike Evans leave. You got Vita Vea who wants to be traded. You're starting to try and figure out what the long-term plan is for this organization. I don't have a problem with either side in the way they've sort of dug in on this. Good news for the Green Bay Packers. Tucker Kraft has been activated off the PUP list. Remember, suffered, I believe, a torn ACL last year. That was a huge loss for Jordan Love. You cannot discount what the loss of Tucker Kraft meant to that team, to that offense. No matter what you think about Jordan Love, what he can or can't do, some of the decisions he makes, is he the guy that could win a Super Bowl? He lost an invaluable piece to that offense with the injury to Tucker Kraft. Now he's got him back for this season. There are big expectations for the Pack in the NFC North, in a very competitive NFC North, where Detroit is expected to rebound this year. Who knows what the Vikings are? We saw the Bears go on a magical run last year in the playoffs with Caleb Williams and his continued growth. Tucker Kraft, huge addition for Jordan Love to have back in the lineup. We're coming back. We're wrapping it up with odds and ends next. All right, welcome back. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for another week. But before we do, some reminders for you. First of all, SportsWrap Weekends. Available on many of these same affiliates. If not, check your local listing for time and schedule. SportsWrap Weekends, our 30-minute recap show, talking about the top stories of the week. It is fantastic. Great guests, commentary, compress it into a 30-minute show. Go and check it out. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. The audio version of this show is available Monday through Friday wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you pick up a podcast, you can get this one. Available wherever you get your podcasts. Again, go and subscribe. It's free. Works great on the treadmill at the gym, while you're sitting by the pool, maybe while you're laying in bed, starting your day, whatever it is. It's available every afternoon. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is the place to find all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show is available on our YouTube channel. You can watch it there. All the commercials stripped out, 45 minutes just sitting there every afternoon. We've also got Sports Wrap Originals, extended conversations from the show. Not everything can fit into a 60-minute show. We put it on the YouTube channel for you. Sports Wrap Shorts, Stories Break, News Breaks. We jump on the YouTube channel and break it down what it all means. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel is a great place to find all the video elements of this show. We also have the Sports Wrap website, sportswrap.tv. Sportswrap.tv. It is the place to find the aforementioned podcast, the place to find the aforementioned video we talked about on the YouTube channel, our Substack daily newsletter. You could sign up right there on our website, sportswrap.tv, and subscribe to the newsletter. Have it delivered to you every day. We've also got the affiliate listing and index. If you want to know where to find the show on television in your market, maybe you're traveling, want to still be able to keep up with us, go and check out the affiliate page where you can just put in your city and state. It'll tell you where the show is on and what time it is on. Usually it's pretty reliable. I'd say it's like 95% reliable. We've also got the contact section at the bottom of the page. You want to reach out to us, send us love, send us hate, just send us something. We're okay with it. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page website, sportswrap.tv. And without any further delay on this Friday edition of the show, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, an update to a story we discussed earlier in the show. Tony Romo placed on leave by CBS Sports. At the time we put the show together this morning, Tony Romo had not yet learned his fate. And Robert Littal and I were going back and forth about it. He didn't think that Romo would be replaced or placed on leave. Well, I said he would. It turns out I was right. And that's not a dig at Robert. Sometimes he gets it right. Sometimes I get it wrong. Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes he gets it wrong. Romo has been basically shelved by CBS Sports. We don't know for how long. What we do know is J.J. Watt has been tabbed to replace him in the meantime, with Tracy Wolfson working the sideline. So it'll be J.J. Watt, Jim Nantz as the A team for the CBS broadcast booth for the NFL this season. It'll be fascinating to watch sort of the dynamic in the booth with Nantz and Watt. And it'll also be very fascinating to watch whether or not, I mean, they owe him like 4 years and $75 million. This is the problem when you go and throw all that money, as CBS did. If there's a divorce coming here between CBS and Tony Romo, it's going to be an ugly divorce. And trust me, Tony Romo's not just going to say, you know what, you can keep that $75 million. It will be acrimonious. It will go through a court of law. And in all likelihood, it will mean Tony Romo not being able to broadcast somewhere else. Because you have to think, for as much as CBS made the decision to take him off the air, and he probably won't be back. If they do have, if he does go somewhere else, somebody else is going to want him. Somebody else will give him an opportunity. We are a nation of second chances. We have learned that over and over again. Odds and ends, the Mets parting ways with pitcher A.J. Minter as trade deadline deals start to percolate. A couple of minor leaguers coming back from the Twins to the Mets in that deal. Will Lindor get dealt at the deadline? Will Lewis Robert Jr., who had a game-winning hit for the team on, I believe, Thursday night, will he be going somewhere else at the deadline? We'll have to wait and see. Kalshi is in the news for reasons it doesn't want to be. It's already been banned by a few states because it's viewed by many as just another form of gambling and a workaround to get by gambling regulations in different states. Well, add the state of New York, Letitia James, the Attorney General, coming out and saying she wants Kalshi banned in New York. Kalshi has obviously responded, said this is unfair. We're federally regulated. You've seen all the Kalshi commercials out there with Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're all in on the United States now. It'll be interesting to see how that lawsuit sort of shakes out. I think as long as the Trump administration is in the White House, you will continue to see Kalshi, for the most part, with limitations from states that might want to try and do something. I think Kalshi's going to be able to do what it wants until you get another administration in that might have a different mindset. Because right now, this administration has no issue with prediction markets operating the way that they do. It's going to do it for us on this Friday edition of the show. Thank you to Robert Littal. Thanks to all of you at home for watching. Check out Sports Wrap Weekends. We'll see you back here next week.